start off and then we'll introduce everybody. But I just want to welcome Valerie again. I want to say again, another compliment that I always enjoy her presentations. They're always interesting and entertaining. A couple of announcements. I want to encourage everybody to read the biweekly updates that's sent out by Ginny. She gives you all the information you know about our upcoming presentations. I want to highlight Val's trip to Hershey Gardens. I know there's been just some discussion about the weather. Uh, Go, bring an umbrella, go have fun. It's worth it. And that'll be on the 12th this Saturday. Upcoming presentation, not to steal any thunder from Marshall, but April 21st, John Barkley, Through the Lens with Love, will be coming on 21st. That's the 2 weeks. And also we have some hands-on items for everybody to take a look at. May 3rd, Tim Peterman's going to be there on Saturday between 1 o'clock and about 4 for hands-on portrait presentation. And then finally, we have on Wednesday, June 25th, we're going to visit Martin Guitar. We do have 2 times we're trying to fill on the 25th, one at 10 o'clock, which I believe has now been filled. And the second one will be at 11 o'clock. And each one of those can handle about 8 people. We're going to try and see if we can push it to 10. But I know that 8 is what Martin Guitar says. Sylvia's done a heck of a lot of work to bring this together over the last few months, and it's finally happening. There are still openings, so please read the newsletter. It has all the information about that. And Martin Guitar, if you've never been on it, it's well worth it. Pictures are allowed, however, videos are not. You can take pictures, but no videos. So read the newsletter for more details about how to sign up for any of those trips. And let's turn it over to Vince, who said he has a couple of things he'd like to say.
Good evening. First thing, we have still a call out for raw images in TIFF format, but TIFF format images for our projects with Penn State Health. See the newsletter for the details, and if you are going to do that, please do it soon. The second announcement, one of our members, Ellen Zimmerman, who was a prize winner during our last competition, her book has just been released, and I thought that it was such a wonderful thing to announce to our members, one of our people having a book published. And I just got mine, ordered it about 3 days ago on Amazon for just a few bucks. So I'll put it in the chat, take a look at it, and applause to Ellen. And I think that's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Vince. Anybody else? Marshall, do you have anything you want to announce?
Yes, I can truthfully say right now that we have 2025 completely booked, and we had a cancellation on October 20th, but I was able to secure Bert Serkin, and he is going to speak to us on AI and how it's changing photography. So I don't know anything about this, so I think I want to learn, and that's what I want everybody else to do, to come out here too, and we'll all learn a little bit together. So there, look, and the newsletters, you'll see the other things that are coming up. And I'm really glad that we have a full docket and everything like that for 2025. And so now I got to get busy on 2026. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Marshall. And finally, Jay, let's turn it over to you unless somebody else would like to speak up. If not,
I'd like to invite everybody on Saturday to come along with Val to visit Hershey Gardens. Don't let a little bit of rain scare you away, but Val's going to make that call. And I'm really excited and thankful that Val's going to present for us tonight. So take it away, Val.
Thanks, Jay.
We can hear you loud and clear, Val.
Okay, that's good. And I'm super excited because you took my. Yes. No. Because every time I do a presentation, it seems like there's something going on. So. Okay. Are we? Yeah, whenever. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are. Yeah, let's start.
You can share, Val.
I don't think it's me. Thank you.
Sound like
Good. We good? All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone that's physically here, and to everyone. I didn't even get to see how many or who all was there in Zoom land, but I'm really excited about this. If anybody like knows me or follows me, you know that I love garden photography. That's probably the first place that I, head out and go to. I like to photograph flowers in a variety of different ways. So hopefully you'll see that presented here. So tonight I have a bunch of different, more sort of mostly local gardens to go through to give you some ideas of places that you can go. And then along the way with that, there'll be some tips and things. So I'll just get started. What's wrong? Hang on, we have something happening. But I can just use this in. Someone stole my mouse. It was a what? Are we good now? All right. So just before we begin, here's a picture from Shofuso Gardens in Philly. And it should be beautiful right now. I'm kind of bummed that winter came back. So I hope all the trees survive, the cold and the rain. But Shofuso is beautiful. I didn't actually go inside. This was taken from the road outside. And this is a panorama of 7 different images. If I say focal lengths, which I might not unless somebody asks, but I currently am shooting all Olympus camera gear. And so that's micro 4/3. So I'll mention the focal length of my lens, but if you're a full frame person, you would double that to get the equivalent. So let's get started. So Blue Marsh, you don't really think of that as a garden per se, but I've had the opportunity to photograph some pretty neat things there. So last year I heard from somebody about the Sensory Trail, which I had wandered onto a minute before. I never really thought anything about it. But if you know where that is, if you're going to Blue Marsh off Palisades Drive, and you're going to go to the beach area, when you go in that entrance, when you start going down the hill, the first big parking lot, if you pull in there, the Sensory Trail is all the way to the back. And it's like a 1/4-mile trail. And there's a lot of wildflowers there. But there's this tiny little garden about half the size of this room that we're in that I found some of the most unique bugs in, this being one of them. So I love the little robber flies with the big eyes and all that good stuff. So, but I'm going to back up a second. If you're from the area, that is, if on Church Road, so Church Road turns off of 183, for the last couple of years, there's been a sunflower patch right there. And I have some pictures from that. And if you go further down the road, there's been these beautiful wildflowers, and they were there again last year. The problem is there's no place to park, so not very safe, but they are there if you walk unsafely. It's some neat things to shoot too. But so right across there at Church and 183, there's been a sunflower field. Some years the state game lands plants them on the other side of the road. But I was there at sunset and the sun had set, and I'm doing macro, so I have a flash, I have a big diffuser on. And I just happened to notice something on this one sunflower. And so it was kind of leaning over and I bent down and it was all these little bees. I don't know how well you could see them. And they're all covered in pollen and they're all tucked in for the night, sleeping already. And I just thought it was so cute. in the sensory garden, I was photographing this crab spider, and I was getting closer and closer, and he was already getting a little unhappy with me. And just then a bee landed on the flower, and he got all upset about it. And I was so thankful that the bee was in my focus range, and I could get a couple pretty neat shots that way too. So you always kind of have to be prepared if you're chasing bugs. And don't worry, this won't be all about bugs, but for a little bit, it'll be bugs. But here's a little weevil. I'm fascinated by them. All right, so now I got to figure this out. This little moth here, I had never seen one like that with these iridescent green eyes and this pink wings on this plant. So that was a pretty neat find. And then I work hard to get good backgrounds. So I'll use a wider aperture. I'll use a longer focal length end to give a cleaner background. And then I will move just and be watching the background, where here I was just trying to get it a little cleaner, maybe a little more pinks and everything there. Now, this was one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. The first time I was there, I was photographing whatever the flower is, and I'm looking, and there was something not right about the little clustery looking thing there. And, you know, it never moved. I got home, I looked it up, I couldn't identify it, so I thought I was nuts, and it wasn't really anything. It was just a piece of a flower. What do I know? But then when I went back, I started seeing more of them, and they were moving. And so what they are, and if you look closely, I don't know if I can do, like, you can see his little feet. So this is his upper body. So they're called junk bugs, and they use their silk to grab petals from the flower and then wrap it around themselves to disguise themselves. And it is the most fascinating. I never heard of it. So yeah, there were a couple of them, and here's another one in a different color matching that flower. And you would just walk right by it. You would have no idea unless you like say, there's something not right about that flower. So that's pretty fun. So monarch little caterpillar. Finding a little crab spider right on that little flower. So that's just, you know, a very local garden that you guys can check out. So these are mostly in alphabetical order, but you'll panic at some point thinking I forgot the biggest garden, and I really didn't. But Chanticleer, you could put, like, you can interact in the chat maybe how many have never been to Chanticleer Gardens. Anybody here? Yeah, sure, alive. So it's a beautiful garden. It's in Wayne, PA. It's not that far maybe from Valley Forge area, but it is just a really beautiful garden. They're open from April through November, I believe. I said October here, but I think online it said April. And they have, it's just so unique. There's a lot of container gardens, all kinds of things. And you saw in my key there, you do have to make reservations if you're going to go for parking. You can pay at the gate. But right from the parking lot, there are beautiful, like some little kind of statue things and beautiful flowers. If you head over towards the bathrooms, and again, those of you that have been there, that whole area is covered in flowers and neat plantings. You could spend, like the one workshop I did, we were 2 hours right in that area. I'm like, we barely got in the gardens. We got to keep moving here. But as you walk through this area, there's this just gorgeous like container garden. This one was taken with a lens baby. The only lens baby that I really use is a lens baby velvet. And I love that lens, so I'll usually have that with me. I'm sure Kathy and May will talk a lot about the velvet, but just some different things here. Now notice with something like this, I used a shallow depth of field. I focused just on the cactus, I'll call it. I'm sure that's not the right name. And just have the background going soft so that all your attention's drawn to what is my subject, is that I'll call it an agave plant now and see if I got close. They have a lot of neat water containers where either things are growing in, or like daily, they'll pluck a bunch of different flowers and then stick them kind of in there. Sorry, I never know where to look here or at everybody here. They have a pool there. This used to be a mansion. You can't go in the pool. You can't hardly see the pool sometimes, but it's a beautiful area. Lots of plantings. This, you know, whole wildflower area right in front of it. All throughout the gardens, there are Adirondack chairs that you can just sit on and appreciate the beauty. And they just, you know, make a beautiful kind of subject within the gardens. They have a garden called the tennis court area or tennis court garden. There is no tennis court. Maybe there used to be in the mansion days, but there are a lot of very textured plantings in there, tons of bugs. Another one with a lens baby. And another one. The people are very friendly there, and it's just really nice. So here's one of the real pretty pathways that you could kind of go. It's like a wooded area. This was at a rhododendrons time. And that will lead you to probably my favorite spot, which is the ruins, as they call it, which is the old kind of remains of a building. It has a lot of succulents, different cactus plantings. If you fall over, you'll, there's a lot in there to be careful with, but it's just beautiful. And, there's things on the wall, growing out of the wall, above the wall. When you go inside, there's like a reflecting pool there that you can do some really neat shots with. Some neat etchings on the ground. Yeah, I used a super wide angle. Yep. And you can see the distortion a little bit too. And then wide angle here too. This is my other favorite spot. There's just this sort of fountain area with these really weird heads in there. And they kind of catch you by surprise because you're shooting flowers and all of a sudden there's these creepy heads. But you can have a lot of fun with them doing really close-ups, doing blurs with the water going around. So it's something fun to catch. And you wouldn't notice unless you went within the ruins there. Lots of different water spots, this little pool there. Little statues throughout the gardens. Some of them are fountains, a lot of little cherubim. The time that I always try and go is the beginning of May, which is poppy time there. They're absolutely beautiful. There's just this kind of hill that they're on. They're very colorful. A lot of things that you can do with them. There's some beautiful flowers, and getting the contrasting colors there, the way we have the reds against the purples. Oh, I could have just done it. Okay. Well, now I don't have access anymore. Hang on, we have a technical difficulty. Okay, I'm back. And then this is from the top of that garden, looking down that hill. And below there is a lily garden and a lotus garden, which is absolutely beautiful. But notice, if you don't know color theory very well, if you've never used a color wheel, a lot of the gardens are planted with color wheel and complementary colors in mind. And look at how the red against the green just pops out like 3D. So that makes it kind of even more stunning. Obviously, this is a lens baby, and I just love the really soft, dreamy look. Am I going too slow, too fast? Am I good? In this case, back when I shot Canon, I had a 180 millimeter macro, which was my favorite lens. And so I'm pretty close to this poppy. And then that's giving me, and I'm wide open at 3.5 and just giving me that beautiful painterly background. And you saw what those flowers were in the last image. So that just, it looks like a painting. I call it my Monet. And I didn't even see him. I was so worried about the background and everything else. I get home and I'm like, oh, what's that? Little freeloader. The 180 macro, it was actually a Tamron lens that hasn't been made for years, but it was fantastic for Canon, yeah. So all over Chanticleer, they'll have these little urns that I watch them just come and stick flowers in like that. And it's just really beautiful. Make a neat puzzle or something. Another lens baby velvet shot where I saw the arch over a pathway and thought it looked really pretty. And so I just kind of moved a little bit so that I could get those pink flowers kind of within the arch. And it gives you an idea, if you've never been there, how the gardens are sprawling. When I got there and we were up at the top by the one mansion, I looked down and saw this photographer with this massive lens. So she must have been chasing birds, which I don't even know if they're known for anything special, but just thought it was a neat something in the image. So down at the water lily garden, they're beautiful. Here's a tip that I always, like with very few exceptions, use a circular polarizer. I just always do. And especially around water, that just gets rid of all the reflections. You know, water lily leaves are very reflective. And so you would have the reflection from the sky and everything. So this just gives it more contrast and gets rid of that reflection and saturates your colors. So I would highly recommend that. And especially, we'll talk about Hershey, but I would especially have one for them. Caught a little bug taking off there. So the lotus flowers, they're huge. They're definitely beautiful. So that would be something you'd want to see in the summer. I don't think they last all that long, but even the spent ones are pretty. This is looking down. I always love allium too and try and play around with different compositions. So this was with the wide angle and kind of pointing down to give it that little bit of distortion. And then I think probably a lot of people miss this, but they have a garden that they plant with vegetables and sometimes sunflowers. And then they have this garage looking structure, which I think they call the potting shed. And it's always decorated really neat. And there's one place where you can look in and see all these tools and everything. That's very photogenic. So that would be something to look for. All right. So grounds for sculpture. How about that? How many people have been there? Now that's in New Jersey. Oh, I see you sneak in. So I've been there a number of times. I love it. It's a good mixture of sculptures and some gardens. It's 42 acres. And it was started as one artist, Seward Johnson's, to house his artwork. And a lot of the sculptures in there are huge, a couple stories high. And this one just looked really cool with a wide angle lens right at his feet pointing up. But definitely in the summer, this would be a great place to go to. So we did, was it last year? I did a workshop here. It was like 350 degrees and it was awful, but it was so beautiful. So here's from that time. Let's give you an idea how big that, what's his name? From Macbeth or something? I forget, somebody will come up with it. But a lot of the sculptures are life size. So you almost think that they're real people and they'll catch you by surprise, but then you realize they're not, you know, they're just his sculpture. So here there's a sculpture of a painter painting the other much larger couple. And it's so lifelike, like it's just amazing. Here we have Kim photographing the guy who's painting the thing, Could be, but she moved and scared me. So I did. The first time I was there, I totally screamed because I was sure it was a statue and it was somebody that moved. And they're like, I'm serious. Like it was so mind blowing. But there's this little area with this little waterfall and lotus flowers. And yeah, maybe you think I have issues, I might with. And this neat sculpture right there of the head in the middle. In the fall, this is beautiful. It turns bright red behind there. So it's really pretty. And then they have a monster in the pond too. So that's a sculpture. I don't remember the name of it. And then the lotus garden is pretty huge and it has multiple levels. So you can be down on the ground, you can be on this kind of platform. And then I was up even higher above shooting my participants, you know, working in there. Just beautiful from all angles. Look at that. And that was just with my 12 to 100 lens, and it was closer to 100 millimeters. So that would be 200 millimeters in full frame, and just wide aperture to get the background nice and soft. Sometimes I like to have, you know, the background really soft. Other times you might want to bring things in with a little more focus, but using the same flowers as the background can be really nice. And on my first or second visit, I came across this praying mantis that was just kind of right there, and he was looking at me and wandering around, and I must have done an hour-long portrait session with him, but this is one of my favorites. And he was huge too. And then just some of the sculptures. I didn't put one in, but like a person would only come up to, I think, their knees. Like this is huge. Yeah. The Scream. I think this is Rat's Restaurant. I've never actually been in there. But there's a lot of neat colors and graphics here, neat reflections. Here's one where we just kind of wandered around and looked in between these hedges, and it was a bunch of guys playing cards, but they're again all statues. And so this was a workshop from a number of years ago where everybody was kind of getting different shots. Some very interesting ones. You can just come around the corner and see people sideways and hanging and lips, and it does. It's just really neat. Like you never know what you're going to find, which is what makes it interesting. It's like an Italian garden here, restaurant. A lot of the statues, what's that? Oh, okay. So the question was, does this change or is it, pretty much the same? So the sculptures do change. Some are permanent. Like most of the ones that I've showed you have been there multiple years. In a couple of years ago when I went, there were a ton of giant, and I'll show you a couple of those, and they've been moved to other places. Like there was a giant Marilyn Monroe, the dress blowing up, and that ended up in Chicago. Like maybe some of you have seen it in downtown Chicago. So some of those get moved around.
Warehouse filled with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when we were there, the one that I'm going to show of the famous Navy guy after the war kissing the nurse, it was laying down being painted. So, but another thing that I try to do is have something in the foreground, middle, and background to give depth to the image, to make it feel more three-dimensional. And so even here, I have something in the foreground, then looking through that, doorway to the sculpture that's in the back. Here's that one. So I don't know if that's permanent there. This is one of my favorites. But while I was just kind of standing there waiting for these people to move, then they struck the pose, and I'm like, oh no, that's the picture. And so I'm like, wait, hold that, do it again. Nobody cared. So you got it, Bob. Now, Abe and whoever that is are no longer there. So that was part of the temporary large display. Yeah. But this window washer, I was sure he was real, and he's not. So I might have started talking to him until I realized he was stuck or had a stroke. But it's just really delightful. It's very colorful. This is a good day to go on a sunny day, and with some clouds can just be beautiful. But then there's this back area, and it has this sculpture called The Awakening. And this is fascinating. Like everybody loves it. So if you could see, well, I don't have my thing now, Tiny Kim at the base of his arms, doing a crazy composition, and our friend Terry down at the foot doing whatever you would do with the foot picture. But it's just really interesting how this body's kind of coming out of the ground, and you could do lots of, all right, I'll go faster. Lots of, different compositions and fun things with that. You're there to give scale, my friend. There, somebody else. But so in the back, there's these two ladies sitting on a bench, having lunch, just talking. And it's just hilarious. And then definitely if you get people in with these larger ones, that totally gives it scale. I usually do our group shot at their knees, because you can see how tiny we are compared to that. On some nights in the summer, they keep the gardens open till 9. I think this was around Labor Day weekend, so the last night they were doing it, and I had this killer sunset. And then they have some really pretty lights that are lit. So that was kind of neat. And then in the dark, I was wandering through and I came upon this, I forget the name of it, it was like Stonehenge. And you couldn't really see it very well, but there were these faint lights on it. And for whatever reason, I had my tripod and I did a long exposure, and then I could see all the glow of these lights. It was something that was spinning around. So that was pretty neat. And then like Longwood had a number of years ago, they did a nightscapes kind of thing. I don't think it was called that. It was 2 years ago. And so there were all these projections on the different sculptures, and it was really neat. Incredibly hard to photograph because it was in the dark and the sculptures were constantly in motion, but it was pretty cool. No, grounds for sculpture. Yeah. And I think this night thing is past. I don't know if they'll do something this year. They did run it, I think, 2 years. All right, so now we'll move to Jenkins. How many have been to Jenkins? Yeah, that's a very, not very, but more unknown garden. It's very near Valley Forge. There's 48 acres of natural woodlands and gardens. And it's really famous for their azaleas. They're supposed to have one of the best displays on the East Coast. And that's mainly the time that I've gone and try and time it right. And when you do time it right, have you been for peak azaleas? I mean, it's stunning. Okay. But it's free admission. You can wander around, very small parking lot. So if you don't get there early, it might be a challenge to get a parking space, but just pathways winding through all these beautiful azaleas. And you can contact them and find out when's peak. I'm not sure how good they are with social media. Some places are really good, others are not. But it's lovely. You can catch it on a misty, what's that? Yeah, if you can catch it on a misty day. You have to watch because some places on social media post pictures from other years and they're not current, and that you get real frustrated if you're not sure that it's peak. But doing, the same thing, a telephoto lens, focusing in on this azalea, wide aperture so that you just have the pretty, other colored azaleas in the background. Can make for a nicer portrait. Lots of rhododendrons as well. In the wooded areas, there's all kinds of trillium and other flowers in early spring. There's a pond area, which I don't have any pictures here, but is that where the lotus were? Yeah, and there's water lilies and different flowers. And it is mostly all paved, so you could get a wheelchair around there. It is pretty hilly, so you're gonna have somebody with a little oomph to get you around, but it's beautiful.
Now they do list their highlights by month
Okay.
on their website.
They're projected though. Timing could still be a thing. And here I used a fisheye lens just pointing up to give a different perspective. All right, so Meadowbrook Farm. I had heard of that. It was on my bucket list for a long time. But hadn't gotten there till last year. It's very near to Bryn Athyn. And so before a workshop that I did at Bryn Athyn last year, I stopped for about 45 minutes and got a couple quick pictures. I would absolutely, it's on my list to do a workshop there in the next coming month or two. There's a mansion, which I don't think you can normally tour, but a bunch of beautiful gardens, there's some statues, and it is free. So here's just some quick pictures from it. Lots of plantings. It's a pollinators. And he's not a pollinator, but he could be, I don't know. But even around the house, there's all these neat kind of little statues and things. And again, if you use a wide angle lens and you get really close to something in the foreground, and even if you tilt down a little bit, you get that kind of skewed perspective. That's just a little, I mean, it's definitely skewed because obviously this plant is not bigger than the little arbor or whatever in the back, but it can make for some neat photos. So the pool, it is gated. You can't go swimming. But it was definitely a place that I was so sorry that we had to rush from. And these aren't great shots, but just to give you an idea of the overview. And then Middle Creek. So everybody thinks of Middle Creek maybe as a birding place. Oh, sorry, I probably wouldn't necessarily think of birding there, although I go with my friends and sit and get a tan while they shoot, Ginny. But the Middle Creek, if you've never been there, is definitely known for snow geese migration. Wasn't very great this year with all the different bird flu and different problems, but there's tons of wildlife viewing opportunities, and there's some nice flower areas right by the visitor center. So now here is a picture that I am very proud of. Painted bunting. Indigo bunting. Okay, indigo bunting. I'm definitely not known for my bird photography, but I was shooting through, I was actually shooting some of the plants and I was shooting through some of them and got this guy with a nice, out of focus foreground. But right around the visitor center, there are lots of flowers, lots of pollinators, a big draw for hummingbirds. So if you ever go there, you'll probably see a ton of photographers with huge lenses, like their birding lenses, trying to get the little hummers. I'm out in the back trying to get the bugs. And this guy just took off on me, and I, because I had a flash and was right there, I was able to get him. But, it's a fun thing. Trails, I haven't done, walked a lot on the trails, but it's pretty neat. And it's relatively dark there if you want to try and do some night skies. There's another one where I just composed this so I would have the similar flower in the background, out of focus, just as a little, complementary background. And I forget what year this was that we had the cicadas, but this was the Brood X or whatever they were called. There were so many of them at Middle Creek, and right behind the visitor center. To walk anywhere, you were just crunching little skeletals and stuff. And this guy was on one of the tables and they were dropping out of the tree while I was, trying to photograph him. But like those eyes were totally crazy and I really wanted to get it. But yeah, I'd be glad if that only happens every so many years. All right, so Morris, how about Morris Arboretum? How many have been there? All right, Vince, have you been to everyone now? So Morris is in Philadelphia, Chestnut Hill. I've only been there once, and I did not time it well, because I just assume that like Longwood always has flowers. But I was just after spring flowers. The trees were now no longer flowering, and before all the summer flowers, the roses weren't in yet. So I didn't really get a lot of great shots, but it is 175 acres. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And I would definitely go back. So there's just a couple pictures from there. Had a killer sky, which can make anything look good, right? A lot of sculptures. So this was somewhere in the back and it was kind of neat. I thought this would look good kind of, in black and white. And I played with this a little. It doesn't totally look like infrared, but I was channeling my inner Ivan Bub to try and, I was playing with the green slider in Lightroom to give the leaves that little bit of a white look. So that was that. All right, Mount Cuba. How many have been there? Vince is trying to win a prize for the home audience there. So I've only been there twice. Both times were in the fall. This was a long time ago, so I would hope that I could do much better pictures, but it is pretty. It's a botanic garden where they're committed to preserving the native habitats. There's a neat kind of mansion area where you go in and pay. They do a lot of different classes. Excuse me, there was a neat gate there, which I thought was kind of nice, opening into the garden. There's a pool area. So both times I was there in the fall. So there are mums surrounding the pool. And just one time I was on a workshop and you were there early in the morning. So that was pretty. But, that's mostly kind of the area. So I didn't really see if there are a lot of flowers or anything in the summer. Have you been there in the summer, Vince? Autumn. All right, so autumn's place to go, or time to go. And there were some whimsical little like statues or whatever on the wall that were kind of neat. So you want to make sure to, keep your eye out for those kind of things, especially in some of these older places. So natural lands, I really had no working knowledge of the Natural Lands Trust until last year, and my friend Brent and I were at Crow's Nest, and Ginny and I have been there a lot, but we were just photographing bugs and hanging out, and a guy came up and was talking to us, and he's the coordinator for education there and that, and kind of got hooked up with them. So, but Natural Lands is 43 different nature preserves now. They just added 1 or 2 new ones in the last couple of months. And so the total land being protected is 23,000 acres, which is pretty awesome. 13 counties, and they're in PA mostly, and mostly here in the east. But there's at least 2 in New Jersey, and 19 of them are open to the public. The newest one that was just acquired, I don't think is open yet. And I'll be giving, as a result of meeting that guy, be giving a presentation to them in June with macro and have a little workshop. And I can give a shout out for Ginny, who has pictures there inside, I understand. So my whole time there's little gardens around and flowers, but for me, it was all about the bugs again. So here you have a little spider, if you can see him in the left there. I had never seen a bug like this, but this is a nymph of, I think, a tree hopper or a leaf hopper. And yeah, he was so cool. Like, we worked him for a long time till he finally had enough of us. But yeah, it's just they're really fascinating. You should get in there. And my favorite bug maybe is the jagged ambush bug, which, yes, your picture with the raindrop is far superior, but I don't know. You blew the raindrop off though. I have no idea what this is, but it was huge and it was in the wooded area. So, it's just amazing the things that you may have never seen before until you really start looking close. This is either, I think it's a tree hopper, or one of the hoppers, and they're so colorful, beautiful. Yeah, so I use, for all the bug shots, I use a Godox flash and an AK diffuser. So, because otherwise it's dark and they're moving and you're moving and you'd never get a good shot, especially if this guy, it was in the dark. So this is a tiny, tiny little fly, but he's got these blue spots on his wings and these crazy yellow eyes. And I first saw him over by the sunflowers in Blue Marsh. When I looked him up, he's called a sunflower maggot. So it's not a great name, but he's a pretty cool little bug. No, it's on camera. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to keep a picture of me in there that my friend took, but yeah, so it's just on camera and then a diffuser. So caterpillar, creepy spider. I used to be terrified of spiders, but now I photograph them. I tolerate them. I saw one crawling in my room and he had to go. But there's lots of little beetles and they're so colorful. So I love weevils now. Like, weevils with their little snouts are like so cool to me. And you can imagine, so this is, I believe, a coneflower. And this is with my 90mm macro, which is already 2 times. And I'm in so close, this is probably 4 times magnification because they're just little tiny bugs. And here's another one on a different flower. Another little hopper. This might even be what the other guy turns into, the little one that looked like a fish. The big eye guy again. And they're, I don't know, how big would you say? They're so tiny. Like, you just look at the tips of flowers and things and you might see something. In a lot of these cases, I have to photograph if I think I see something just to figure out what it is and which end is up. And then, oh, there's the eyes, and then move around like they're that tiny. Oh, I already forgot what this guy is. Some kind of green ambush bug, I think. All right, how about Nemours? No, Vince hasn't been. Oh, no, you guys all have. That's cool. So Nemours is a really cool garden. It's maybe 20 minutes from Longwood, maybe 10 minutes from Winter Tour, but it's 200 acres of French-inspired formal gardens and grounds and woodlands. And there's a mansion there that's just huge and beautiful with 77 rooms. And it's really best in the summer, like not early spring. Maybe they have trees, but they do their own plantings each year. And it takes a little bit for them to kind of be filled in. But it's just beautiful. A lot of times this little in the front there will have flowers within that area. But there's some different sculptures, some waterways. This is a beautiful view from the mansion looking down. And in the summer, those urns are full of flowers. The first time I was there was right after we had that big storm, like in March, and a lot of this had been damaged. And so there was scaffolding around everything. And so I said something and they actually gave me a ticket to come back again. This gold statue was very much damaged during that storm. So he's pretty new now. In the fall, they'd put a lot of mums out. Should be a fan here too. No, it's not. Was there a fan? No. So here the mums are beautiful. Now we're looking back towards the mansion. I don't know. Well, you know, this neat little bench. Yeah, so I was just, I'll get to the mansion in a second and then I'll say a couple things with it. So here's one of the nice urns that has pretty flowers in it. Sorry, the presenter was getting hot. Probably shouldn't have worn fleece. This was a view from up above when touring the mansion. I was joking around with somebody. This was my first visit and joking that there was nothing in bloom and everything was damaged. And the lady said, hang on a minute. And then she disappeared and she came back and did one of these and took me out on the balcony and let me walk around where normally they don't let people go. So they really went out of their way to just make it a great experience, even though it wasn't what I had paid to see. And it's like $17, maybe more now to get in. But you could go in the mansion, you could photograph in there, you could do it on your own without being part of a tour. No tripod, so that was just kind of left by the coat rack. But I'm not sure that I didn't look at the policies now and that there's not photography in the mansion. So I would double check that. But it's really pretty. Yeah. This area of the library was so tight, you couldn't have gotten anything even with the wide angle lens. So I quick put on my fisheye, which I like to have in mansions and things. And that was the only way to get, hardly anything in the picture, but I thought it was kind of fun looking. Yeah. So in the basement, they have billiard tables and also a full 2-lane bowling alley. So it's pretty neat. So if you can tour it, you absolutely do want to. All right, let's go to something really local again. It's not big, but it is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, really, who hasn't been there? But the Reading Museum has a really nice little flower area and tons of bugs. So if you look closely at this bug, I never heard of a fuzzy butt bug before, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with this thing. But apparently they're a thing. You can Google it, and there are fuzzy butts, and they were in Why I'm Missing too. And again, I'm fascinated by the beauty of God's creation. So, but lots of flowers, lots of pollinators, moths, butterflies. They don't bother you, when you're getting close. Little beetles. They're trying to take off on me. So you can, play with your flowers, play with your bugs. And here, so this yellow flower was small, and I'm just staring at it because you just kind of have to stare and wait till you see something move or something that looks out of place. And there was a white speck that, like, that doesn't look right. And when I looked closer and had to take a picture because I still couldn't see with my eyes, it was our little jagged ambush bug. So I think he was a nymph because he was so tiny. But how cool is he? All right, September Farms. Anybody been there for something besides cheese, dairy? So this is in Honeybrook. So I guess that's Lancaster County at that point. But they've had for the last 2 years sunflower fields that they plant right there. and they just open it up for people to come and enjoy. So is that Route 30? I was close. But yeah, so you go. Yeah, so we went there, three of us, Ginny, and we just there were a ton of bugs, ton of sunflowers. It was beautiful. When we finished, we ate in their little cafe, which was great food. So, here's just an idea. The market's right there. Sunflowers are right on the road. Lots of parking. Can go there on Sunday when they're closed. Be respectful. Don't kill them. Don't pick them. But it's real nice. So here's another one. We're using a telephoto lens. This was my Olympus 40 to 150 at 2.8. And I'm close and zoomed way in so I can get that super soft background. Little tiny fly. So you can imagine how tiny he is because he's on the edge of, one of the little leaves there. Need special contacts for the little bugs. But, the textures and everything of sunflowers are beautiful. Yeah. Little spirograph action. The first time I was there, it was sunset, and there was a kind of neat, colorful sky. And so I used a fill flash just to fill in because that flower was completely silhouetted. And this I thought was a fun composition. So it looked like two eyes and a face. And then I purposely did the wider aperture to, make the guys in the back out of focus. Little jumper, he's our favorite. And they're curious little spiders. So they'll come and they'll just kind of look at you, give you a second and a half to shoot them. Oh, I think I was going to say more than 4. Yeah. Yeah. So you can use the flowers as framing. So Stoneleigh, how about Stoneleigh? Who's been to Stoneleigh? Oh, we finally got no one there. So this is near Villanova, I believe, and it's now part of the Natural Lands Trust. So Media, PA. It's a smaller garden, but it's really pretty and it's free to wander around. There's a mansion, which I think you can only tour at certain times. I was only ever there once, but would love to go back. This was, I think, in May. And I love this gate. I waited and moved and framed the elderly couple walking in the one window of the archway there, whatever you would call that. But you can just do, and again, seeing different composition options. There's some crazy trees, and I don't even know how to shoot them, so I was trying to use them to frame. This was kind of a neat, walkway, arbor. And again, trying to channel my Ivan Bub infrared. But this is just simply moving the green slider in Lightroom. Made this one black and white, except for the green at the end. So different things you could play with both in your editing and the way you shoot. Another crazy bunch of trees. So there's just to give you an overview. But it's definitely pretty. Wildflower Lookout. Has anyone heard of that? So that's new. It's only been open for about 2 years. I forgot to put where it is. Lancaster County, Bronx, I believe, is where it is. And it's a garden that's planted by an Amish family or farmers there, specifically for people to come and take pictures. So it's $10. I don't know if it's still the same. This was 2 years ago, $10 to get in and photograph. There's 4 acres. And if you're a portrait photographer, you can rent a space so that you can have that to yourself without other people walking around. I don't remember what the fee is for that. It was, like I said, $10 to get in. But we were there during poppy time. And again, that was just beautiful, all the different textures and colors. A lot of pollinators, but they do sunflowers as well. And I saw someone when we were there that rented the place for like an 80th birthday party, and they had this beautiful tablecloth and all this fine china, right in the field. So I guess you could do whatever. But here's just some different compositions and things with the flowers and the bugs. I'm not really good at bees in flight, so, I was kind of working on that. And ladybugs never want to sit still, so I was happy to get a couple shots of them. And that's that. So winter tour, how many have been there? Only a couple. So winter tour is just down Route 52 from Longwood Gardens, 10, 15 minutes away. It's a beautiful garden. You got somebody up top. Absolutely beautiful. There's 1,000 acres of meadows, farmland, and waterways, and it's really gorgeous in all seasons. They're open to the public April through November, I think. But if you become a member, you can go into the garden sunrise to sunset 365 days a year. It's on my bucket list to get there in the snow, but since we don't plow the streets in Reading, you can't even get out. But so my favorite time is for the azaleas. So they have an azalea woods. I forget how many acres it is. It's absolutely stunning. Generally the first week of May, and you'll have some early blooming rhododendrons mixed in there. It's just gorgeous. I will pick a day when there's fog or rain so that you have the mist. I did put that at the end. That'll be a tip, but I don't go on bright sunny days. I don't go for waterfalls. I don't go for flower gardens. But if you can get mist, it's just beautiful. And the colors. There's benches all around just to sit and relax. A friend of mine flew in from LA and he went there, we toured it. Yeah, it's not, and it's very hilly. There is a tram that tours the gardens and will take you to the mansion, which is part of, it's free with your entrance fee. I think might be $20 now. But so if any walking disabilities or whatever, elderly family, just ride the tram around. It's beautiful. And you can take the tram and hop on and off as well. So if you get tired of walking and you're lost in the back 40, just hop on a tram. But so again, the azaleas are a beautiful time. Do some portraits. I didn't know that I was a tree person or could have a favorite tree until I saw this Japanese cutleaf maple. And I just love this tree. I always go to photograph it. Early in the morning, it's backlit, so we're looking east here. A lot of times then in the spring, there's the daffodils below it. It's just beautiful. You can try a couple different angles. I think the last time I was there, I used my fisheye to do something different. It's pretty neat if you can get a sun star in there, which I don't believe I managed. If I remember correctly, this mansion is 9 stories and half of them are underground, which is amazing. You can't tour all of that. I think you can tour some floors. That is an extra fee, I think. But again, azalea woods is really what draws me. And for the rhododendrons, just the color. They have a garden tour in the back that's called the Quarry Garden that is filled with pretty flowers. I can't remember the name. There's this little kind of brick building with the point that looks out over the daffodil field, which is really neat. So again, if you time that right, and that's probably towards, yeah, right now. Maybe a little earlier because it's a little warmer. It's a little south of us. So go to winter tour tomorrow in the rain. Beautiful pathways. They're famous also for their magnolia trees. They have some trees there that are like 200 years old, or some of the oldest in the country. So if you can get there at peak magnolia bloom, that's pretty stunning. even more so on a rainy day. It's just beautiful. Great place for a family portrait. Is it?
Right.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And then they also have a great peony garden. So, and they were kind of blooming at the tail end of azaleas the one year. Len's baby shot. One of the other neat places is they have a reflecting pool near one of the mansions, little gateway. So if you're into architecture, that's pretty. The pool last year was covered in these little snapdragons. Little thing. So this is a focus stacked image where I did, I think, 15 shots from the foreground to get the little snapdragons all the way back to the little horse there. Olympus can merge those in camera, so that's a beautiful benefit. But just at azalea time, the whole place is aglow. Some koi in there. Trillium in the woods. Now this is I have a Lens Baby Soul 22, which I almost never use, but here I must have been trying to make myself like it. It's small, it's not my vision. But in the museum, you could tour that. The displays are constantly changing. They had soup urns on display the year that I went and walked through. You could take pictures in there for that. No tripods. They will keep those at the desk. But there's some neat architectural things. I waited till a guy came walking across, and I also used the slow shutter speed to get that little bit of motion. Fisheye lens leaning over. Trying not to get my feet in it. And then just outside there, it's kind of pretty neat area. That looks kind of blah in color, but looks really neat in black and white. What's that? They are, yeah. Real crispy. All right, so y'all thought I missed Longwood, right? Who could do that? Save the best, almost the best for last. So arguably Longwood is one of the premier gardens in the country. I love it there. My favorite time is tulip time, but year round. Who's never been to Longwood? Dude, seriously? Never been. Yeah, I figured. How about at home? Has everybody been to Longwood? I mean, most people have probably been at least once or, 35 times or whatever. But I love tulip time because I love bold color. They have beautiful fountains. Christmas is a huge time to go. And they do have now even stricter photo policies than ever. So let's go through some of that. There are 2 conservatories now. This is the normal one. It's beautiful all year round. This is from the east entrance where we used to go in for a couple of years while they had all the construction going. Make sure to turn around and look the other way. This little boy was just sitting there staring at him. First, I'm like, all right, buddy, move. And then I thought, I'll just pluck him out in software. And I'm like, no, I like him. He's a cute little addition. And he was just loving the beauty of nature. So, but, try to minimize. If you look to this first image, it's not very pretty. The ceiling, it's metal, it's glass. If it's sunny, it's really harsh light. I mean, it's a real challenge in there. If you go in the winter, your glasses fog up and your camera fogs up. But if you just move, zoom in closer, you can get some images that have much more impact. So these are from a whole bunch of years, different plantings. I think these are stargazer lilies or Asiatic. One of them, the really huge lilies. And so I used a wide angle to really accentuate them. Blue poppies, they're famous for those. They're very hard to bloom. They're from the Himalayas. There was a lot less this year. I had the pleasure of leading a workshop for Longwood. It was a little trickery. This was the one shot I got this year that I liked. But from previous years, they were planted in a different place. They had colorful flowers behind them. Lens Baby to give it that super softness. If you're there, you got to get in really close to the center of them. I would think, yeah, they're only on display for like 10 days. They're also known for their orchids. They have an orchid room or an orchid house that is beautiful. Prior to all the construction, they used to have an orchid extravaganza every January through the beginning of March. And that was absolutely spectacular because there were orchids everywhere. And now they're really mostly just in the orchid house. But here's another one where, you know, I'm trying to find just a clean background, picking flowers that have just, and in this case, green behind it. The bright is the sun kind of coming down. These are in the orchid room. You have to be careful. It's a little breezy in there. Flowers are very tiny, so it can be a challenge. But, you know, all of this is just done in camera. I'm not smart enough, Ginny will confirm that, to change a background or do anything else. No. Nope. Yeah, just the light that's there. Some of them may have a little radial filter love in the center to give them a little extra something, something. But yeah. And even, you know, you're there, use the macro and get in super close and just make it so people wonder what is it? Some of them have these really curly, you know, edges, so try and accent that. They also have what's called a silver room, which has a lot of arid plants and succulents. Can be pretty neat. So that's just a great place to focus on textures. Getting really close with the macro. Some of these, if you look, have a real kind of blue tone, bluish green to them, which is pretty. So this plant is right along the ground and nobody ever pays attention to it, but it has these, it's really fuzzy, soft, and it has these little curlies on the edge. And if you just sit down with your macro lens and start looking at curlies, you can get some really neat shots with super shallow depth of field. So tulip time now. I love to do this shot at least once or twice with either a wide angle lens or a fisheye lens, holding the camera, trying to keep my head out under the flowers, pre-focusing and shooting towards the sun so you kind of get that sunburst. And you get this beautiful backlighting on the flowers. Or if you can choose, go on a rainy day where you have nice mist in the air and the flowers are beautiful and everybody else stayed home or they're in chocolate world. Oh yeah, not at Longwood, okay. But little lens baby action here. Tulips, again, play with apertures. I like shallow depth of field. Get in super close with the telephoto lens and just, you know, the sun coming down on the top. So maybe the tops are harsh from the sunlight. You can just get the bottom. If some of them have really beautiful edges to them, so pop out the macro and focus in on those. And even in the sun, if you can try and get them backlit, they can be beautiful. And then this was just after tulip time, so the beginning of May. And this was probably the most beautiful plantings along the main flower walk that I had ever seen. I mean, it was just gorgeous. The colors, the magenta snapdragons, fountains, pretty stunning. And this was the first year that I timed it right to be there for Wisteria, which is a garden just below the main fountain garden. And that's beautiful. Can get very crowded, so your remove distractions in Photoshop will come in big handy. But again, fill your frame, make it kind of abstract. I love this shot. Shoot verticals and horizontals. And is this lilacs or is this wisteria? So it's still wisteria. I was going to say, because it's early in the season. This was the end of April. So this is the DuPont house 1 year. And that's beautiful as well. And in the millions of years I've been going here, only 1 year did I see these in bloom. These are Paulownia trees. And that's the main walk, like up to the conservatory. That was beautiful. So now it's in my planner for every year to try and time that. and the water lilies. So they're world renowned for their water lilies. They've been gone for 2 years. They should be back this summer. They have lilies all over the country being preserved, our water lilies. But the lily pads are huge. Like I think they said, Bob, you could correct me, like a small child, 30 pounds could sit on these. They're very pokey, so you wouldn't want to do that. So the water lilies themselves are just beautiful, lots of little bees. Get there in the rain and it's stunning. You got some dragonflies, you have some damselflies. Yeah. I mean, it looks similar, but we don't know what it'll look like. I thought the ponds were the same, but we'll see soon. And then the meadow. I don't spend a lot of time in the meadow. I've never walked up to that house, or is that the library all the way up there? Some library? I don't know what it is. Bob's never walked up there either. But it's real pretty, and it's pretty to get a nice view. So here there was a photographer. I'm just kind of on the path, so that added some nice balance. In the fall, if you don't have a complete sneezing fit back there, it's beautiful. Lots of bees. And then Longwood is known for their fountains. So this is the sunken garden right off and below the main flower walk. 2 different years, always beautiful. So make sure to look down there. Kind of right beside the wisteria garden. The Italian water garden, I love that as well. Then the main fountain garden is really the gem. The fountain shows will return in May, usually a little after Mother's Day. So that's real pretty. And they have shows every hour on the hour then once it's back, and then night fountain shows on weekends. So some different views. My favorite is at night. I love the night fountain show. It's a challenge to shoot. You're not supposed to use a tripod. There's fire that comes out of the flames, which is pretty neat. So I've shot from all over the place. At the end of the show, for about 15 minutes, all the fountains are on and lit in colors. So then you can just run around and shoot freely. And nobody really says anything then with your tripod, in theory, unless you're with me. Then it might go south fast. But it's just beautiful. Again, I love color. So fire, blue hour, just from up on top. One of the nights there was a luminary, a pop-up luminary night. So I was just kind of wandering around shooting those and just noticed the purple, fountains behind these lights. But who's ever been there for a luminary night? Like that is stunning. And you get almost no notice. Like if you're on their newsletter list, you might get a notice Tuesday that it happens on Friday. And you just got to run. And here was even a moonrise behind the clouds. But they do it in all different parts of the garden. So obviously here it was in the fountain garden. And it's gorgeous. The one year they actually had them all over the water lily garden. And I had enough of crowds. And so I stayed there and I was almost the only one there while everybody was at the fountains. They used to have a mum festival, which they haven't had in a couple years. And they were famous for this, which is 1,000 bloom mum, which is 1,000 blooms from one single plant. And it's been cultivated and it has a metal rail that they're, getting the flowers to bloom through. So, and that supports it, because I would assume it would be very heavy and awkward. But if you Google it, they went and studied under Japanese, horticulturists for hours. I mean, like hundreds of hours. So that's beautiful. Mum time is always nice. I don't know if that'll come back or not. In the fall, I'm almost never there in the fall, but the workshops that we had that one year, there's beautiful reflections. The meadow turns nice. This is the old fountain garden before it was redone. That was probably the last time I was just wandering around there in the fall. whatever these trees are called, right soon after you come in, turn this gorgeous orange. They were going to have some luminaries in the water at this year. So fall can be beautiful. They let this grow over. You almost can't see this anymore. It's a little frustrating. Yeah. But so Bob here came up with this idea to do a workshop in winter. And I thought it was the worst idea in the history of the world, because who wants to be in a garden with a bunch of dead stuff and freezing? But I said, okay, I'll do it. We did this for Longwood. And on the second or whatever day, it started to snow, right? First thing, and it was so beautiful. Yeah. So I get credit for that. But this is standing on top of the main fountain garden. I had never seen this before, but this really gnarly, pokey, thorny plant was there. And so I just kind of used that to frame the bell tower in the background. But the snow was pretty magical. So this was from that workshop. And now it's Christmas. That's how we'll wrap that up. So Christmas, the new conservatory now that's kind of open up there. They light up the fountains in the foreground, but it's just lights, not real water. This was this past year's display. It was pretty neat. Very tall, so it was hard to get a good picture of it. A couple years ago. Beautiful. This was my favorite year, the Fire and Ice Festival. So this was the fire room. And then the other one was ice. So, hang on. So what I did here. Sorry. So the question was I shooting very slow shutter speed so I could block the people out? Well, no, because everything would be blurred. You know, I don't shoot very well hand holding, and it's dark, like it's really dark in there, and there's no tripods. So what I do is wait for a break in the selfie section, which is right here when you walk in, and run down and sit right at that thing in the water and just sit down there. And I'm below most people's pictures and take pictures with my elbows propped on my knees. And I can shoot about a quarter of a second or a half a second semi-successfully. And I do the same thing here. I wait till a group breaks and I sit my butt right there and start taking pictures until someone smacks me on the head and says, get out. But you can see in the background there a ton of people. Like it's murderous at Christmas. If you've never been, you got to see it, but you might want to, I don't know, have a sedative. But if you go in the rain is spectacular. Look at those reflections. It's unlike anything else. And there are no people there. They're all scared of it. Shoot through some of the Christmas trees. The open air fountains do a beautiful show as long as it's not too cold. In the rain, you have these beautiful reflections of the conservatory. This is the new conservatory that just opened right before Thanksgiving. What? Yeah. So it's now it's in the place where they took away half the original conservatory. And it's beautiful architecturally. At this point, the jury was out for me that it was worth 2 years and all the money. But now there are some beautiful things blooming in there, and I've grown to love it. But Blue Hour, it was beautiful. So because I love architecture, that's where I was at Blue Hour, kind of hanging out. So there were yellow lights inside, but the sunset also is reflecting against that end of it. So it can be pretty beautiful. And that was the end of that. So here we go. Hershey, this is the last one. If you're falling asleep, is everybody asleep at home? I'm looking, no, I'm a little alive yet. All right, so let's talk about Hershey. So again, I don't get to Hershey a lot, but I try to get there for tulip time. And it's beautiful. So there's 23 acres. They're famous for the rose garden. There's kind of 11 different theme gardens. And there's a butterfly atrium that's been there for a number of years that's in the newer conservatory. So let's take a peek. It is right across and up the hill from the amusement park. And sometimes if it's warm, the rides might even be going. So this was a 300 millimeter lens or something, just, really zoomed in to compress that and take a neat picture from up on the hill at the entrance. So if you're coming on Saturday and you don't have this kind of view where you're trying to get in, you're not at the right place. But go inside the conservatory. It's beautiful. So this was a fisheye lens again, pointing up the ceiling. They have these kind of palm branches, these little butterfly things all around. So it's pretty neat. And then going to the butterfly house. All right, I just got to warn you, no matter what the temperature is on Saturday, it is like 8,000 degrees in there, and 300% humidity is the hottest place I've been. And so we leave like our coats and tripod, if you have one, in bags by the front desk. And then just go in with a camera and run. And, it should be a challenge to see who can last the longest, but you will sweat. It's pretty. And because it's so warm, the butterflies are very active. But if you try really hard and you have the patience and you don't mind all the people, you could get some pretty shots. And this is not. Yes. Yep. So that's one neat thing that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. I think because this was a little while ago, the 180 macro. So if I was going to pick a lens now, I would do my 40 to 150 f2.8. So you want some reach because they'll be back a little bit in the trees or whatever. Or they could be right in front of you. So if you do have like an 18 to 200 or 400, that might be a good lens too. And if you have a flash, that might help too, because they're flitting and flooding and all that stuff. There's a tarantula, a big furry one, in one of the cases. And I find him terrifying and fascinating at the same time. I think it's a she. I think her name is Rose. But whatever. Now into the gardens, there's a big pond here, some little statues. So that's the conservatory. We'd come in on the other side. Excuse me. Tulip time, trees are still in bloom, hopefully. So it's just kind of beautiful. So it's not as vast as Longwood, but there are nice rows. And if you're there to do macro or just nice little portraits, you can just sit down in a patch and shoot all day. There's some neat butterfly benches that are kind of neat to get in the background. There's like an arbor near the children's garden where it's kind of neat and rounded. And again, something foreground, middle ground, background gives it some nice depth. Or you can just do the portraits. Notice the raindrops, a little extra something. So I purposely went on a rainy day this day, and I had just quick drying hiking clothes, and I sat in the wet, and I did get wet, but that's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. It's overcast. So, I mean, I would choose that. You could play, like, if there isn't any wind, trying to do some close-ups with those drops. I'm never very good at that, but to get, reflections in the raindrops. Do a vertical and a horizontal, because you never know what you'll like. I have no idea what these flowers were. They were tiny blue ones. I was testing my new 90 millimeter macro, and I just had the lens so close and was just getting these dreamy shots. And these were just growing right along a fence. And this was some kind of succulent that I just found fascinating and was doing super close-ups of it. So you could see at these gardens, you could do anything from, the beautiful landscape, scenic, to nice portraits, to super close-ups, depending on what, your vision is. Up in the back, not here, up in the back is Hotel Hershey. And that's kind of the overflow parking. This is now the famous rose garden in the summer, and you can see the rides in the background. So it's a ton of roses. And they're probably 100 years old. So there's the Hotel Hershey in the back. Don't even think about using a tripod in there, because it will not go well with you. In Hotel Hershey. Yeah, they don't care in this garden. Nobody's walking around yelling at people, unlike other places. But here's just some ideas of the different plantings. Sequoia. So there's a beautiful, what's that?
Dawn Redwood.
Dawn Redwood. They have a couple, like 3 in a row, of the cut leaf maples that are beautiful. Again, fisheye lens just to really do that crazy distorted look. There's some little statues. That one is crooked. There's some statues in the back. They look boring until I put a lens baby on. Now they're slightly less boring. And then there's a bench that has these lion heads on each end. And so again, I was trying to force myself to use my Sol 22 lens baby. And so this was a shot. And I actually really like this shot. Kind of creepy. All right, so here we go, wrapping it up. Thank you for all this is all the time. Here's some final thoughts. So you should know before you go. Each of these gardens, they have different times that they're open, different seasons, different policies. So make sure to look them up. Search on their site for photography policies, or just Google photography policy at Winter Tour or whatever. All the gardens that I've listed here are mostly photography friendly. Longwood would have the most regulations for sure. If you don't know it or haven't been in a while, there are no tripods ever inside the conservatory anymore, period. Unless you go on a workshop of theirs. At different times of the year, even if you're a member, it requires timed tickets. So we're now in a members need timed tickets for the spring blooms. And then I think they let that go in the summer, except for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, and that's when the night fountain shows are. Grab, I don't know how many have an America's Garden Capital little passport where they actually will stamp your passport in the back. So I grabbed one of these, and I love this because this shows me all the gardens, like there's over 100 within the greater Philadelphia area, that you can now challenge yourself once a week, or, you know, you retired people go out every day to a different garden. And also there was a book, it's very old, but Great Gardens of the Philadelphia region, that has a lot of great information, and is put together by a guy, a photographer. This little one, you can get them at any of the gardens that participate in here. I did not see one at Longwood, but they used to have them at Winter Tour. I got this one at Meadowbrook when I was there. But they might have it at Chanticleer. So, and I think you might be able to print it out online, like print things and see the thing online. So you just have to check. And then, you know, be creative. So this was a shoot through where I have these green grasses in the foreground and I'm shooting through to these flowers in the background. It gives it that soft, ethereal look. Wide aperture, those grasses need to be right against the lens. If you've never tried that, try that. It can be really creative. And so here's your final tips. I think the best time to photograph is a bright overcast day with minimal wind. So I always check the wind before I go out. If it's going to be more than 4 or 5 miles an hour, just don't do it. It's a disaster. You'll never get a sharp shot. You'll want to shoot yourself. It just, I'm telling you. So check the wind. Challenge yourself to try different lenses. So I think hopefully I've done, you know, showed a bunch of different lenses, maybe giving you some ideas for that. But again, you see that I like to use a telephoto lens to do my portraits and isolate things. And I love to do super close-ups with a macro. Consider embracing those bugs and chasing them and getting some pictures, because you will be amazed what you might see crawling around on your flowers or in any of these gardens. And even my best pollinators have been at Blue Marsh, that trail, and like Reading, yes, and Crow's Nest. So, and then definitely use a circular polarizer to reduce the glare. Use a lens hood, especially if it's going to rain. That will help keep rain off the front of the lens, and it'll protect from sun flare. So if you are shooting into the sun, that'll help to minimize those bright spots. Get out in the mist and the rain, or after a rain shower. My preference would be that it rains all night and it stops in the morning. So then there'll be the raindrops all over everything. But you're definitely going to love, I hope you liked some of those images. And then watch for spots of decay, or where your flower is not at peak petals, because I can't tell you how many times I have photographed a flower for 15 minutes and got every angle and got it perfectly sharp and got home and found a million spots on it. And you just like somehow get blinders for that. So just watch for that. And now that's it. So Hershey Gardens, we have a Berks Photographic Society workshop scheduled for this coming Saturday. The goal, let's forget about weather for a minute. They open at 9, so the goal is to be there at 9 a.m. So we would meet outside the main conservatory doors at 8:55 sharp. You pay for your ticket inside the doors. The butterfly house is included in that admission fee. If you're a member of, I don't know what the reciprocity is, but if you're a Winter Tour member, you get in here for free. And if you have a dual membership at Winter Tour, you could get 2 people in. So if you're a member to some other garden, you can check if Hershey is on the reciprocal list, or even join so that you can have access to a different garden and get a little more bang for your buck. So the plan for Saturday is to explore the gardens together, work on a bunch of different creative techniques like you've seen. It can be for those that are attending the workshop, ask me anything, show me anything, let's play with something. I can help you do the best you can with the gear that you have. We'll go through creative composition, all that good stuff. So anyone that would like to hang with me and get help and get more creative, it's only $20. The question came up, what if people just want to go and just wander on their own? I will not hunt you down for that. So certainly you can do that and wander. Maybe the group can decide they want to meet for lunch somewhere afterwards. There's a bunch of places. Okay, and now the weather's iffy. Weather changes rapidly. So I would say we should wait till at least Friday afternoon to make the call. So if you want me to make the call, who would I contact? And we could put that on the Facebook page or whatever that says, yes, we're on, or we're going to try and delay. Should I tell you?
You can tell me, Val.
Okay. 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 So everybody, you're supposed to let Jay know, but you could really sign up at the last minute. You could show up. You could give me money there. That's fine. So it'd be probably good if it was on the Facebook page. Yeah.
If you guys could let me know if you tentatively plan on going, that
Okay.
would be great.
Well, why don't we-
Please
Go ahead.
just email me. Yeah, you can just show up if you just decide you want to go on the spur of the moment. But specifically, let me know if you need a ride. A couple people, I think, wanted to carpool, and I just want to make sure I have everybody. So just let me know if you're planning on going. If not, just show up, and that's okay too.
So Jay, would you like me to tell you, and you can send out an email if, well, definitely like if we're canceling because now it's really stormy or something?
Yes, I'll just email the entire club and let them know.
Okay, because again, people could just, come in if they want to at the last minute, like maybe you thought you had something and now you don't. So how about we give it till like 2 or 3 o'clock? And then we'll make the call officially there. Because I would hate to cancel it because it's hard to get everybody, with a date. And I would like to really have a lot of different flower, gardens on different Saturdays and things too. So final slides. Here's me. I would love for you guys to keep in touch. I post regularly on Facebook whenever I go somewhere, and I do image dumps and show you a bunch of different compositions and things. Very eclectic. I have rust, I have abandon, I have flowers, I have bugs. What else do I have? Waterfalls. I love waterfalls. There. I also post Monday through Friday generally on Instagram. I love that, if you ask a question in the comments, what lens did you use? Or sometimes I list that and sometimes I don't. So you can feel free to ask questions. I'm happy to help. I love teaching and helping people. If you go on my website, you can sign up for the monthly newsletter, and then you'll be the first to know about new workshops. Hopefully one of those will come out tomorrow at some point. And then hopefully you'll join me for any upcoming workshop. So thank you guys so much for your attention here and there. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Val. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Jay.
Anybody have any questions for Val? Speak up.
Yeah, fire away. And I brought my laptop with Lightroom so I could tell you exactly how I shot the images, like what lens and everything, if anybody is interested. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so I'd never be able to remember that. Who's got questions?
Do you
That's
ever do
okay.
Tyler Arboretum?
I have never been to Tyler. That's on my list. It's in the little thing, but I haven't.
Okay. We lived in media for 10 years, and that's basically while I had my kids at home, we were there probably 3 times a week
Yeah, I was never
between there
there,
and Ridley Creek.
or Scott or Arboretum. I was never there. And yes, Ginny reminded me that I missed Welkenweir, which is in the Pottstown area. And that can be very pretty. And I thought about that, and by the time I got back to my computer, it was gone. They have a huge beaver there, Bob says. But it's real pretty. Yeah, they have nice, very nice formal gardens. Let me know if you go and you see them. The last time I was there was COVID time, and they kicked us out, but then they saw us cry and they let us stay. And so, and we felt that was the highlight of my life, my wildlife hunt with this baby groundhog. There are pictures to prove it. Other questions? So do you recommend Tyler, whoever said that?
Yes, I definitely do. The trees are from all around the world. So you have a lot of trees that you don't find anywhere else. There's the largest sequoia this side of the Mississippi, things like that.
Oh,
There's a
I've
gink,
read-
there's a ginkgo that's massive. Like it looks, I can't even compare.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, by the way, I have
Yeah.
cards if it.
And if you ever need help with bug IDs, I can help you.
Oh, good. I always need help with bug ID and plants. Yeah, anything else? Uh-huh.
How often are you using a flash, Val?
Oh, hang on 1 second, Jay. How? At Tyler. All right, I like ruins, and I like if there's. Okay, the question was, or the statement was that at Tyler, they also have some neat ruins and things. So another reason that we should check out Tyler. It's like in Philly though, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, it's not? Oh, okay, okay. Okay. I have this aversion to cities. It's Kim. I have an aversion. I actually drove through town to get here. Freaked me out. Question.
Just, there's this great place called Collinsfield. It's up,
Yes, I've been there in the rain. Yeah,
it's all like Stonehenge type
yeah.
stuff.
So the statement was there's a pretty place called Columcille, which if I pronounce it right, whichever one, and it's up the edge of the Poconos. So what's the exact area? I forget. I've been there. They want to charge a $10 fee to get in, and it's kind of some stone croppings and different things, but it's pretty interesting. But it is by a retreat center, and the expectation is that you're quiet and respectful as like a prayer garden. So
Val, have you been to Shanks? Sorry.
I have. I might be the only person in the world that can't stand Shanks Ferry, but like if your car survives the drive in, which is long and gutterous and painful, and if you can handle the 8,000 people walking along the tiny path for the flowers, yeah, no, I have been there. But, right? Who's been there and agrees with me? Like, no? You don't agree with me? All right, we have. Yeah, there wasn't enough bang for the buck for like bottoming out my poor Honda Accord at 300 some thousand miles or something. So. What? Jay, did you have a question, comment? We cut you off?
Yeah, perhaps I missed this if you mentioned it, but you're how often do you use a flash? And are you
So
using one of those special hoods around your flash?
I am. Boy, I wish I'd have left that picture in the presentation. I'm always using the flash and the big diffuser, which I use the AK diffuser. I can even put a post on a Facebook page with it. I use it for all my bug shots. I could not get good, sharp bug shots without using that. And now I have a much better chance because the bugs are in motion. It's very dark. When you're at that high magnification, that's your only real option for success. Now, I don't say that you need the AK diffuser. It's awesome. It's probably your best option. It runs about $110, $120, custom made in Florida. But there are a variety of diffusers. You could make one of your own. But the thing is that you need to have the light come straight down to the edge of the lens if you're doing bugs. But this fall, I shot mums in a mum garden, not mums, dahlias. And I used my flash the whole time. And I loved the results. You could not tell. It was just that little extra pop in the middle. And I loved it. So if you do have a little bit of a breeze, using the flash could help with that. But you just don't want it to look flashed. So you have to be comfortable with shooting it in manual and diffusing it. And don't buy a ring flash. And even the bugs, they'll look like little aliens. And they'll have weird reflections too. So this diffuser is like all around softness kind of thing. A bug soft box. Everyone here is on their phone. What are they doing? Are they Googling AK diffuser? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have. Yeah.
A lot of people saying thank you in the comments, Val.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. What Meadows? Yeah, I don't care, actually. Now that's another lens I have to carry.
That's Lee, he's a big bird.
And Lee knows that there's birds in the meadow? Yeah, there are hummingbirds too, on the, I forget which plant they love. Because Brent always goes down. I already have a big macro, a flash, a diffuser, another macro, a 40 to 150, and then a regular lens. I don't want to take my 100 to 400 too. Just putting my foot down.
Make a separate trip.
Oh, I don't think I would drive there just for birds. I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't have that picture here with me. What's that? Oh, I'd like a fox. Yeah. I want to get in at 7 though. Yeah, and Longwood in the fall, when we were there for the one thing, there was hoarfrost on everything, and it was pretty spectacular in the meadow. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, it's hot in here. What? Well, can I get a copy of the chat so I could see, since I'm not reading it? Okay, cool. Cool. And yeah, please sign up for my newsletter and follow along. You'll hear funny stories. Maybe you can join. I guarantee you will have fun. Hopefully you learn something. Oh, my word. Well, I'm planning to have one every Saturday going through like summer, like photo walks at Meadowbrook and stuff. I don't have them in order. I do want to do winter tour, the beginning. Oh, my next workshop is at Longwood Gardens for the tulips on April 22nd. That's me, not Longwood. Yeah. So Bob's class won't have tulips, but mine will. So sign up, and I'll only have 7. He'll have 20. But yeah, that one I picked on a Tuesday, hoping that people don't know that they're open on Tuesday just for spring. Yeah. But Saturday's pretty rough unless you want to pluck people out of all your images. So, welcome.
Anybody else before I shut down here?